Disney's treatment of Pixar over the last 3 years has effectively ruined the studio's reputation, with their latest film Elemental having the lowest opening day in Pixar history. A measly $11.8 million. The whole weekend only pulling in $29.5 million. The second lowest opening weekend. If you're curious, the #1 spot belongs to Toy Story, which you know was their first movie, so that checks out. For something to flop harder than The Good Dinosaur is honestly impressive, and a pretty clear indicator that Pixar is in trouble. But sadly, anyone could have seen this coming, given that this is the first non-sequel from Pixar that Disney has put into theaters in 3 years. Although the conversation towards Elemental's box office failure is starting to gravitate towards its poor marketing, which is absolutely a factor, I think the entire fiasco is a symptom of a much bigger problem. And I don't think Disney's solution of ordering more needless sequels is going to help out either. The mouse dug a steep grave for our beloved lamp, and now it's struggling to climb out before getting buried alive. How did we get to this point? Why do things feel so dire for an animation studio that used to be on top of the world? And what can its parent company do to truly repair its reputation? Well, let's start from the beginning one last time. Okay, maybe not the beginning. Let's settle for, March 2020. My god, I can't believe it's already been 3 years since 2020. Time is dead and meaning has no meaning. Pixar just released Onward, their first non-sequel since Coco at the end of 2017. And it did okay, opening to a disappointing 40 million. It still led the box office, opening at #1, but it grossed the low end of what was projected. For comparison's sake, Coco's opening weekend grossed 50 million, with a total of 70 million once you factor in the 5-day Thanksgiving weekend. Incredibles 2 opened up at 180 million, and Toy Story 4 opened up at 120 million. Now let's be for real, measuring up to one of the most highly anticipated sequels of all time, and Toy Story 4, was going to be an impossible task, at least financially. But even without factoring in the full Thanksgiving weekend for Coco, that $10 million gap between the two openings is baffling. If you're getting compared to The Good Dinosaur, you might have fucked up. There was a clear disconnect between audiences and the marketing for this film, a problem that would unfortunately linger beyond this movie. While Pixar has always featured relatively mature storytelling that's suitable for all ages, I think they wanted to kick off the 2020s by elevating that storytelling, sprinkling in older protagonists and much more personal subject matter into the conflicts at hand. Whether it's mourning a parent you hardly even remember, grappling with mortality itself, having to hide your identity from an entire community of people, or dealing with sudden changes to your body during one of the most confusing and rebellious times in your life. But I think to those in charge of marketing, these heavier themes make it a bit more difficult to sell the movie because they simply don't have confidence that the general audience will connect with these stories, at least from a trailer. More so, they don't have confidence kids will connect with these stories. Which is crazy because everyone of every age who watched Up back in '09 still love it wholeheartedly and have those first 20 minutes engraved into their soul. Instead of marketing the film's true tone, Onward was mainly presented as a movie with this D&D-esque world, featuring the talents of Spider-Man, Garfield, and this lesbian Cyclops. Disney thought the resurgence of D&D and 2 other superheroes would be enough to carry this film, but the reality is that there was little for the average moviegoer to latch onto. It's okay though, it's only an opening weekend. Perhaps word of mouth and a lack of competition will help Onward prosper. I can't think of anything that could happen within the next 3 weeks that would disrupt the entire film industry.
Foreshadowing is a literary device and
The breaking news, stay at home. That is the order tonight from 4 state governors.
Stay home.
Yo, this is more serious than I thought it was.
Whoa, Raggy. So yeah, COVID happened, theaters shut down, films got delayed. But as you may remember, corporations resorted to releasing their films on streaming in order to make a quick buck. They all have their shiny new streaming service, and now that everyone's cooped up inside, what better way to rake in some subscriptions than the movies that didn't get a chance to shine in the theater? Sadly, I think they got carried away pretty early into this experiment, especially Disney. This is where the tides began to turn against Pixar's favor, as not only did Disney throw Onward on streaming in April 2020, but the studio's next 3 films would forego a theatrical release entirely and exist exclusively on Disney+. getting branded as Disney Plus originals even though they were made for theaters.
I can't believe you've done this.
Soul, Luca, and Turning Red each robbed of the format that they were made for, and each time it felt more egregious than the last. Soul was understandable, but still felt like a major blow. It already got delayed from its original summer date, and I can't fault them out for wanting to give families something to watch for the holidays, but come on! This film is gorgeous! And I feel like I can't even comprehend how gorgeous it is because I watched it on a 55-inch TV instead of a 70-foot screen. But Luca is where the hypocrisy began to show. Despite Raya, Black Widow, Cruella, Jungle Cruise, and Mulan receiving theatrical releases and short-lived premiere access on Disney Plus, Luca was confined only to streaming for free.
Not again. Oh, this ain't supposed to happen to me.
Which, being free wasn't inherently a bad thing. Premiere access wasn't a successful model for Disney anyway, but even employees at Pixar felt some type of way that Disney was basically saying, our movies and Marvel movies are worth an extra price tag, but Pixar's aren't. Turning Red was the breaking point for a lot of people, and the biggest indicator that Disney lost their faith in Pixar for whatever pointless reason, as despite releasing Encanto in theaters twice and reaping a chunk of the profit from the smash hit Spider-Man No Way Home, Turning Red still missed out on a theatrical run and was released on Disney Plus at a point where theaters were back in business. It just made no sense, especially because it's a great film. Out of all 6 films in the 2020s thus far, this is the one that's gotten the most praise, and I still see love for it on a regular basis. Hell, at the time of recording this video, the movie has been trending on Twitter for days in response to Elemental's performance, because people are saying how they'd still be willing to throw money at Disney for a chance to watch it on the big screen. Disney, you fucked up. Turning Red should have been in theaters. Soul should have been in theaters. Luca should have been in theaters. Even if it amounted to a pity run in theaters, none of them should have been robbed. Oh, but Luca did run at the El Capitan Theater for a week. So congrats to everyone who lived in California that got to go see it. Most probably didn't though, because they probably didn't know.
Experience the world of Disney and Pixar's Luca on Disney Plus, the way creators intended, with OLED TV and its accurate and vibrant colors.
And to those of a disposable income who are going to be paying for these trips to the theater, whether that be teens, adults, parents, or parent-adjacent family members, there's only so many takeaways you can have from Pixar essentially shifting to direct-to-DVD status for 2 years. Those takeaways sadly being that these films aren't worth your money, and that you're better off watching them in the comfort of your own home, when you're not distracted by a million apps on your phone. That is the stigma they have attached to Pixar films. Don't believe me? Look no further than the first Pixar film they distributed to theaters since Onward. The underwhelming outing that is Lightyear. Of course, the first Pixar film they're comfortable returning to theaters with is the Toy Story spinoff. But unfortunately for Disney, Lightyear kinda flopped pretty hard for them. With a budget of $200 million, Lightyear only grossed $226.4 million. I'm very doubtful they broke even once you factor in marketing and all that jazz. But it was supposed to make a bajillion more billion dollars like Toy Story 4. That was supposed to be some executive's yacht money. How did this happen? Well, they destroyed Pixar's reputation and made a mid-movie. That's what happened. Lightyear kinda stunk, and I think they knew that. Seeing as the marketing for the film just relied on the fact that it was a Buzz Lightyear origin story, where Buzz is voiced by an Avenger. Ooh. Keep in mind, we haven't had an Avengers film in 4 years at this point, and Chris Evans retired from the role of Captain America, so like, who is this casting for? Don't get me wrong, I love Evans. Definitely my favorite of the White Chris tetralogy, but his casting was definitely meant to drive up ticket sales. Too little too late, and this whole thing not only being an origin story, but the exact same movie Andy watched as a kid, is just a confusing gimmick that's poised to disappoint people when barely any of the shit Buzz Lightyear is known for is in the movie. Why was Buzz the only character from this movie that got an action figure in universe? And I still detest this plot twist. Why have the villain be Buzz from the future? It's so dumb!
So dumb, it's brilliant. No! It's just dumb.
Of course, another significant reason the film massively underperformed is the sheer existence of Disney Plus, and again, conditioning people to see less value in the Pixar brand. You want to know the most common response to Lightyear that I heard? I'll just wait till it's on Disney Plus. Theaters have gotten expensive, especially for a whole family outing, which was formerly Pixar's bag. In today's day and age, where a trip to the theaters could easily cost the average nuclear family anywhere from $50 to $100, why not just wait the 3 months and have a movie night at the cost of a $10 subscription you're already paying for? Honestly, I think this has affected more than just Pixar. They're just the ones who have gotten the worst of it. Marvel's taken a beating too, with pretty much all their 2022 films underperforming compared to their predecessors, for pretty much the same reasons. There's a huge dip in quality, and these movies are something we'll be able to stream in a few months anyway. There's no incentive to see these films opening weekend anymore, if in the theater at all. This brings us to Elemental and how its fate encapsulates all of Disney's mistakes over the past 3 years. Every bad move we went over today is present in this film's marketing in spades, misrepresenting the true tone of the film in favor of presenting an easily digestible story about two strangers who fall in love but can't be together because reasons, when in reality, it's about the daughter of two immigrants finding herself and finding love in the process. But again, that's too much for Pixar to market. We don't want people to think these stories mean something. So yeah, let's just sell it solely on the romance and lead people to think it's a predictable Zootopia-esque allegory on racism. Everyone felt like they could figure out the plot to this movie based off the trailers, and I can't blame them. But I can blame the Pixar marketing team. They simply failed at their job to sell people on the movie. A majority of the public have no idea what this film is really about. And although a lot of people think the movie isn't bad, they also don't think it's that great either. And when you're in the situation Pixar is currently in, you need something that's more than just okay by their own standards. Now, outside of their own standards, the movie probably is really good. I low-key still haven't seen it yet, but I plan on watching it this week because I want to support it. I wasn't planning on it at first, but the word of mouth at least swayed me, so hey, check that out, Disney. Knowing about the actual plot to your film makes people want to see it. Who knew? Maybe it'll fare better on Disney Plus like Encanto did after its initial release. But for now, the damage is done. It'll take a lot of positive word of mouth for Elemental to escape being viewed as something more than Pixar's biggest flop. So where does Pixar go from here? How do they fix their reputation and preserve their legacy? Well, in Disney's mind, the right move is to make a Toy Story 5 with both Buzz and Woody, undermining the ending of Toy Story 4, which undermined the ending of Toy Story 3. While I'm sure this will definitely make more money than Lightyear and especially Elemental, I don't think it's going to make as much as Toy Story 4. Toy Story 4 oddly had a lot of hype around it. It piqued a lot of people's curiosity and it brought a lot of families to the theater, especially because at that point, people who grew up with Toy Story had kids of their own. But with the mixed reception to Toy Story 4, I don't know those same people would be willing to bring their families back out for another go years later. To Disney and Pixar, a sequel is a guaranteed way to bounce back, but I think audiences may see another attempt to recreate something that was lost ages ago. I think what's really hard for Pixar, and any studio making movies really, is that things are greenlit years before we'll see them, so they can't really afford to have a mindset where we'll just have to make the next one really good because the next one is already right around the corner. They just kinda have to take a chance with what they got. I do think all of the hardships Pixar has endured is amplified by the competition like Spider-Verse and Puss in Boots. And yeah, the CCO did sing the praises of Spider-Verse and said it's not a competition. But in what world would the head of an animation studio make a professional statement on a successful movie that makes them look salty? I'm not saying they are salty. I think these words are genuine, but I also really doubt that anyone high up at an animation studio is going to watch Spider-Verse and not feel a fire lit under their ass. Come on now. They may not be direct competitors in the sense both studios may have animated films dropping the same weekend, but I'd say they're competitors when it comes to brand recognition and reliability. It's clear Pixar's name is holding less and less power, and at this rate, it may only be a matter of time until DreamWorks or Sony Pictures Animation starts to be favored more than them by the general public. But I want to end this rather grim video on a positive note. Pixar's next film, Leo, looks amazing, and I already think it's exploring sci-fi concepts in a much more interesting way than the likes of Lightyear. And I love Leo's design. He stands out to me as a protagonist, and unlike Elemental, this teaser isn't met with an irrational amount of dislikes, so I'd say it's off to a good start. I'm really rooting for this film. more original ideas like this, with marketing like this, instead of hoping that more unnecessary sequels are gonna save ya. I don't really know how to end this video, but I do have a question for all of you. Something that's been on my mind for a while now. Does anyone know this bitch does something in the movie because she's been on every poster in that same damn pose?